Hey, Cougar family. Welcome to Season 1 of the CougsFirst podcast, your one-stop business network, a podcast all about life, business, and the best college in the world, Washington State University. Join us each episode to hear stories from your favorite Cougs, interviewed by yours truly, Kelsey Knutson, class of 2012. We're so glad you're here, and we can't wait to dive into this week's conversation. So grab a cup of coffee, crack open that beer, or pour a glass of wine, and let's kick off another episode of the CougsFirst podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the CougsFirst podcast. Today, I'm super pumped because I'm joined by Tony Poston, who is the executive director for CougsFirst, which is a new role. He also was founder and heavily involved in College Hill. There's a lot of history here and ultimately a fellow Coug. So I'm excited to dive in and talk more about Tony's journey, what that means for CougsFirst, the direction of where we're taking things, and overall, Tony, just your story of WSU and how awesome it was for you. So Tony, could you start by telling people today, you as executive director, what the heck does that mean?
Yeah, well, I'm about 4 months in and it's been awesome. I was previously part of the board for CougsFirst for the past 4 or 5 years. But for the last decade or so that CougsFirst has been around, it's been ran entirely by volunteers. So Jack Thompson and Glenn Osterhout, kind of the chairman and founders there. And I've been working with them for about, like I said, 5 years. And over the past year or so, we've kind of talked about hiring an executive director, and that kind of turned into, hey, Tony, why don't you take this job? So it's been great. And I couldn't ask for better bosses. The board that I work for at CougsFirst is just full of amazing individuals. So it's been great.
That's awesome. And for anyone who doesn't know, could you tell us a little bit about your College Hill journey, what that is, and the quick overview, if you don't mind? I know there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, well, College Hill was started in 2011 in spring, the Spring Fest, actually. I remember, I think Ludacris was playing in Beasley Coliseum. But that morning, a few of us had breakfast at the Coug. Bob Cady, the owner of the Coug, opened it for us early and cooked breakfast burgers for us because he knew that we were starting a company, and we were sitting there brainstorming what we would call this company. And we decided to name it College Hill after the neighborhood we were sitting in. But for those of you that don't know what College Hill is, it's a branded merchandise studio, and it started heavily in the Greek market, selling fraternity and sorority T-shirts for date dashes and game days and parents' weekends and things like that. But over the past decade, it has grown into a company that does business in all 50 states at over 400 college campuses and with Fortune 500 companies. So it's been a crazy journey. I'm so proud of where the company has gone, and our new CEO, Jen Gangwish, she's about 6 months in now, but she's been with College Hill for 8 years, I think. But she's crushing it. I couldn't have asked for a better person to fill my shoes. She's, I should have probably made her the CEO years ago, because every month she's breaking records and everybody's happy, and the company's just on the greatest trajectory it could ever be on. So we hire a lot of Cougs. I think we've had over 200 and something employees or interns, and I would say less than 5% are non-Cougs. So that's pretty cool. And WSU is a great client and great partner for College Hill, and just a huge part of our journey. So that's kind of the 2-minute version of College Hill's journey.
Hey, that was perfect. And as a business, how did you find CougsFirst as a business owner? How was that a good fit? Kind of walk us through that relationship and how that started.
Yeah, well, I was sitting in my bedroom / office above the Coug probably 8 years ago, and I get a call from Jack Thompson, the throwing Samoan, and he leaves a voicemail, and I call him back. I was like, the throwing Samoan just called me. I had never met him before, and I was like, wow, I know who this guy is. This is strange. But pretty cool. I was a little starstruck. And now he's actually, my mentor and a great friend, and I have a son named Jack now. So anyways, I called Jack back, and he tells me about this organization that they've started and that they're going to have a trade show, and he's heard about my business. And a close friend of mine, who's now actually one of my employees, she had another business Leanne Grimm, she called me and said, yeah, we're going to do this trade show. You need to be there. And the rest is kind of history. That's how I got involved with CougsFirst. And then after a show in Seattle at the Washington State Convention Center, I'd say 6 years ago, maybe, a group of us went out to dinner, and the chairman and founder, Glenn Osterhout, it was me and I think Alex Brink, Jed Collins, a few others were there, and he kind of said that we're the future of CougsFirst, and they need to bring in some young alumni, and so Jed and I joined the board at that point. I think that maybe was 2017, 2018. I can't really remember, actually. It's kind of with the pandemic, everything blends in years.
Yes, so true.
Yeah.
So let's dissect two questions here. One, what would you tell Cougar-owned businesses about CougsFirst and why they should be a part of it?
Yeah, well, honestly, CougsFirst for my business, College Hill, has just done wonders. And I'm not just saying that because I'm the executive director. I honestly, it's just amazing how much business and how many, not just accounts and clients we've gained, but friends and relationships we've gained from the trade shows. And then now with CougsFirst offering thought leadership and business education, it's learning a lot. And you can call up a Coug and I don't want to say you can give them all of your trust, but there's an immediate connection there. So you can trust them in a way. And so you can ask them for referrals or ask them a business or HR related question, and you can get a legit answer. And I think that's a big part of it, is just having this network of people, of people that have had the same experience with you, the same collegiate experience, Greek experience, nightlife experience in Pullman. There's just we have this affinity for Washington State University. And anytime you say you're a Coug, there's kind of this visceral reaction when you get a Go Cougs in the airport or whatever. And so it's done wonders. I mean, yeah, like, of course, Chamber of Commerce's are great too. That's what CougsFirst is. It's a Chamber of Commerce, but the community isn't a physical community like, City of Seattle or Pullman or whatever. But it's a community of like-minded individuals, and we're all Cougs. So that's awesome. That's the first part of your question.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
That was perfect. Well, and I'm going to throw in too, the barrier is pretty low. So if you're a Cougar-owned business, it's a pretty doable financial commitment to just be in the sphere. And I would say the more energy you put in building relationships and connecting with the CougsFirst community, the more you'll get out of it.
Exactly. I mean, just like anything in business, the more you put in, the more you get out. You can join every service organization or chamber of commerce or young professionals group, but if you're not there and active and getting on a board or volunteering and forming those relationships, it's not going to do much for you. But You're right. There's a very low barrier to entry into this network. I mean, you can come to the show for free. You can come to our after hours for free and actually get a free drink or two. But to be listed as an official sponsor and member of CougsFirst, it's $100. I mean, that is nothing. And to exhibit at our shows, it's around $1,000. But we have a bunch of other packages and media packages, and we have a very robust email list, and it's not very expensive to get in and to begin to get those priority referrals from Cougs that are plugged into the business network. For sure.
Do you have some businesses that come to mind that really are leveraging the community? And if so, what are they doing to make the most of it?
Oh, yeah. Well, College Hill's the one that comes to the top of mind. I mean, we've gotten 6 figures plus from just the trade shows alone in revenue, and formed so many great relationships and friendships. And, the CougsFirst flagship event is our show in Seattle. And, in the past, it's had over 1,000 attendees and over 100 exhibitors. And I remember the last show before the pandemic, I was walking through the aisles, and because College Hill makes everything that these booths are giving out, the booths themselves, the displays, the table covers, everything, polos that everybody's wearing, the name badges. And I was just more than every other booth was a client of College Hill. And I was just like, wow, this is awesome.
CougsFirst is your one-stop business network. Looking for a new bank or insurance? Think CougsFirst. Buying a new car? Think CougsFirst. Hiring a Coug? Think CougsFirst. Need a mentor? You guessed it. Think CougsFirst. What makes WSU great is Cougs supporting Cougs, and they are in every business. And we'll take your call. Google it at cougsfirst.org. And as always, go Cougs.
But, on top of that, I mean, Jack Thompson, Cross Country Mortgage, they have an affinity program for Cougs. You get I think it's like $2,000 in closing credits or whatever the term is for mortgages for being a Coug. And if I recall correct, it's the second largest affinity program for cross country mortgage in the country. And I mean, Cross Country is a nationwide. I mean, I don't know how many offices they have, but they have a lot. And there's a lot of Cougs that leverage, or Jack that leverages that affinity program for Cougs to help them with their mortgages. Other ones, Sotheby's, International Marketplace. They have multiple offices over on the West Side, and Chad Schreiner, who's on our board, does a lot of business with Cougs, sells a lot of homes to Cougs. And in Pullman, Melanie Lang with Coldwell Banker sells a lot of homes for Cougs and to Cougs. And I'd like to think a lot of that has to do with CougsFirst. But aside from that, the big one, BECU, I forgot. They joined the CougsFirst network and got really involved and are actually our lead sponsor and presenting sponsor for our shows. They joined the network and started getting involved when they released the WSU logo credit card. And I believe there are over 70,000 cards in circulation now. So wow. They joined us and partnered with us in the Alumni Association in conjunction with the release of that card. And it's been hugely successful for them. So that's for businesses, everything from a small business like College Hill and realtors to nationwide companies to a major credit union. So
yeah, that's awesome. Okay, let's shift perspectives here. Not the business owner, but people attending. You already said it, but it's free to come to a trade show. So if you're not a business owner, why should you come to CougsFirst trade shows, and what other options are there to get plugged in?
Yeah, so I think that's kind of a common misconception about CougsFirst being a business network, is you have to be an owner and you're there trading business cards or not or whatnot. But really the reality of it and why CougsFirst is called CougsFirst. A lot of people ask that. Well, what is that? I don't get it. It's because we want people to think Cougs first for all of their products and services. And so when you're shopping, whether it's you need a new fireplace or a new hot tub, Aquaquip is Cougar owned and managed, or you need a new insurance agent, or you want to buy a new truck or an RV, or you need some Christmas or holiday gifts. To think CougsFirst and buying from a Cougar owned or managed business. It's just an automatic thing for me. I mean, we could play a rapid fire game. If you were to say, Tony, insurance agent, Coug, yes. Tony, attorney, Coug. I could say everybody is a Coug, and a lot of that's organic, of course, but, and me living in Pullman. But really, that's one of the things that I consider when I'm purchasing products and services from anybody. And so that's what the show is all about. It's less, hey, I'm a business owner and I want to meet another business owner. It's more, hey, who can I support that owns a business or manages a business? I should do my banking with a Coug. I should buy my clothes from a boutique, Asher Goods in Redmond, which is awesome. I just got an awesome pair of shoes from them. It's Cougar owned. When I go out to eat, where do I go to eat? Well, I want to go out to eat to a Cougar owned or managed restaurant, whether it's in Seattle and that's, Marco Polo Bar and Grill, or whether I'm in Pullman, go into one of Jim Harbor's many restaurants. So that's what it is in a nutshell, and how you can get involved as just a Coug friend or alumni. You don't have to be a business owner or manager.
Totally. And what about hiring at CougsFirst?
Yes. So we do. There's a lot of businesses that leverage the show to let people know that they're hiring. And we're in the plans with some top secret stuff about making that a little bit more robust at our shows. So I can't say anything about it now, but hiring is a going to be a big aspect of our events in the future. And it really is kind of a frame of mind for a lot of the Cougar owned businesses. Just like I said about College Hill, they now, which is weird to say, have hired, I would say, over 200 Cougs in the last 11 years, whether they're interns or sales representatives or graphic designers or whatever. So it's really cool to see that we have had testimonials from individuals who have found jobs and careers at the show. So
that's very cool. And I think something most people don't know, which is why I wanted to make sure we told them about it today.
Right.
Because it's a huge opportunity for people. Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now shifting the spotlight kind of back to you and your journey. What advice would you give to someone graduating recently, either wanting to start a business or just jumpstart their career? What advice would you give?
Find a mentor would be a good one. And don't be afraid to ask the hard questions. I think, a mentor generally is somebody who's successful and you kind of want to model your success after theirs, right? And
right.
So maybe you're a little intimidated in the beginning. And when I first started College Hill, I had a group of mentors. I called them my board, and we would get together every quarter and have dinner. And in the beginning, I was scared to ask questions because you don't know what you don't know. I started my business in my early 20s out of college and never worked for a corporation or anything. And so there was HR related questions that I was almost embarrassed to ask. And looking back, it's like, yeah, I probably should have asked that question a long time ago. So that's the first piece of advice, is find a mentor or a group of mentors that you can trust and that trust you. They're not going to be your mentor if they don't think that you're going to be successful, or if you're not willing to listen and things like that. And then, of course, leverage your relationships in the Cougar community. I think that was a big one for me. Is I had advisors or other friends that maybe were a year or two older than me from WSU that all went out and were successful at various things. And so that was my first, I guess, my leads in the beginning when I started selling custom apparel was, hey, I'm going back to WSU and people who are connected to WSU. And that's going to be my first book of business. So I leveraged the WSU relationship pretty well. And then, get involved. That was, for me, before I was involved in CougsFirst, I was involved with the Chamber of Commerce and on the board and the president of the Chamber of Commerce. But, the first probably month I had started College Hill, I walked down to the Chamber of Commerce in downtown Pullman and met Marie Dimkowski, the executive director, and told her I was starting this business and kind of gave her my vision for it. And she pretty much introduced me to every single person that I needed to know in Pullman. She was so excited that I had decided to move back to Pullman to start my business because I wanted to start it in where I guess kind of my journey started, I think, is in Pullman as an undergrad. But I wanted to raise my family here. And she just loved hearing that. So she was instrumental in getting me plugged into the Pullman community. And that kind of led to me getting a board position there for the Chamber of Commerce. And, a lot of the Pullman businesses trust College Hill with their brand and their work outfits or whatever it may be. So getting involved and not just showing up, like I said, you get involved more than just going to the after hours, like get on the board that plans the after hours or volunteer at, for us in Pullman, it's a Lentil Festival. I come from a music industry background. That's what I did for the first few years out of college. But that led to me booking all the music for the Lentil Festival. And as you get more involved, opportunities open up.
What makes WSU great? Cougs support Cougs, and they are in every business and want to give you a good deal. Looking for a new bank or insurance? Think CougsFirst. Selling your house? Think CougsFirst. Need to plan a party? Pick a venue or set your menu? Think CougsFirst. Did we make our point? Start to Google it at CougsFirst.org. And as always, go Cougs!
That's a great answer. I love that. And we're also fortunate that you've built a business and kind of passed the reins off to someone else. Could you give maybe some advice on how to do that, lessons you've learned in that process. Not everyone goes through that as a business owner. So I need your expertise here.
Yeah, well, it's going to be hard for me to give expertise because I was so incredibly lucky to have Jen Gangwish.
Yeah.
This is another example of power of the Cougar community is I've known Jen for 16 years. We were undergrads together and we were on ASWSU together. And I knew then how much of a boss she was. She was just incredible in college and kind of kept us all in line at ASWSU. And when I had the opportunity to have a conversation with her about coming to work at College Hill, I hired her and she was an account coordinator. And, that's kind of where you started back then in College Hill, was ordering t-shirts and invoicing clients. But I knew the first conversation I had with her, I remember it. We were driving down in the Soto district and I was talking to her because she was a client. I'll rewind. That's how she came to College Hill. She was a client of ours. And she had a company that we printed some apparel for. So one day though, we were driving and I said, hey, why don't you come work at College Hill? And I gave her an offer on the spot. And I knew that moment, like the way that she had talked about the excitement of that opportunity and just her ideas, that she would someday run the company. It was not, I'm just very lucky because that's not everybody's journey. I knew that was like my succession plan was like, holy cow, I'm in my car driving through Soto and I already have my succession plan like 2 years into my business. I mean, it took me 10 years to exit it and finally hand over the reins, but I knew that it would eventually be her, whether it was 5 years, 10 years, or 15 years. And so she's somebody that I trust wholeheartedly. And, for the first few years of the business, my mantra was kind of like, nobody's ever going to care as much about this business as I am. And that's why this business is successful, is because I'm here. And then I hired Jen, and she does care as much as I do. So if you are lucky enough to find somebody that cares about your business as much as you do, then do everything you can to keep that person.
Yeah.
And Jen very quickly went through and within months she was in sales, and then a few months after that. And I strategically put her in every department so she could learn it and kind of build it and understand it. So when she sat at the head of the table, she knew what all of the other managers were going through. But she could have ran the business a year in, of course. But, I had goals for myself that I wanted to challenge myself to build it to a certain level. And, but yeah, that biggest piece of advice is if you could find a Jen, which is, a lot harder and involves a lot of luck. The second piece of advice would be, everybody overestimates what they can do in 1 year or 6 months or 3 years, but underestimates what they can do in a decade. I think people shoot for the stars at the beginning. And we did $1 million in revenue in our first year, in the first 365 days. And it was like, wow, our goal was $1 million. We did $1,004,000. So we were up, it was just barely over the goal, which is incredible. But I thought we would be a $20 million company by year 3. It was like, that's not going to happen in a bedroom above the Coug, So since then, we've opened multiple offices in different states and all of that. But looking back at 10 years, I just couldn't believe what we were able to accomplish in 10 years. I was a little disheartened at year 3 when we weren't a $20 million business, I'll be completely honest. But looking back, it's like, wow, the things that we've done, the places we've been, the offices that we've opened, the people that we've had been incredibly fortunate to work with, and, the scholarships that we've given out, like everything, year 3, when I saw my logo on the board at Martin Stadium, was awesome. But year 5, we had a t-shirt cannon Gatling gun shooting 30 t-shirts out a second, so it was just really cool to see. So I guess don't get discouraged if you're not, multi-millions in the first 3 years. So
yeah. Hey, you're right though, that sometimes we get such big ideas that we forget how far we've actually come in our journey.
Yeah, it takes time. And I guess another piece of advice, and Jen and I just had this conversation yesterday or the day before, is, bigger isn't always better.
Mm-hmm.
We have a smaller staff right now. Like our staff pre-pandemic probably was a little bit bigger, but right now our staff is what it was when we were doing half the revenue. We went out and hired a ton of people because we're like, wow, we want to grow. But now our staff is a bit smaller and everybody's making more money and the company's breaking records every single month with the smaller staff, because we have the right people in the right seats. So
yes,
bigger isn't always better.
So true. Okay, you mentioned seats. So as you were preparing for your next plan, you knew you were going to hand the keys off to Jen. Why did you decide CougsFirst? Like, how did that all kind of come to be, if you don't mind me? Now I'm asking all my nosy questions. So how'd that come to be?
Well, I didn't actually really consider it. I was interested, I was a board member and I knew we were getting close to hiring an executive director. The pandemic put things on pause for CougsFirst. So out of interest, I had asked if I could take a look at the job description that was being created for the executive director. And at first I was like, kind of just sort of throwing ideas out there and helping put together the job description for somebody someday. And I handed over the keys in January, so 6 months ago. There was another job at the university that I was very interested in. And that job is still open and they haven't filled it, I don't think yet. But I had thought about pursuing that job and talked to some folks high up in the university and was very encouraged to pursue that job. But I think it sounds corny, but I just kind of knew that job wasn't right for me right now. So when the search committee or, the third party hiring people called me, I said, I'm going to take my hat out of the ring. And Glenn Osterhout and Jack Thompson just really are the reason why I took this job, because they're just such great Cougs and people that I strive to be like, and giving back to the university and just successful business people and just very, very well-liked people in our community. And so when they said, Tony, you'd be perfect for this job, tell us your thoughts, I put together a very simple strategic plan and presented it to them. And they said, wow, when can you start? So that's really sort of how it happened. And like I said, it sounds cheesy. The other job didn't feel right, but this just felt really right for me for right now. And where I'm at in my life with a new baby, I guess he's almost 2 now, so not so new anymore. But it felt like the perfect fit. And, I'm 120 days in and so far it's been just an amazing ride. It feels like starting a business all over again where every day is exciting still, and you wake up and again, another cliche, it doesn't feel like work. I get to work with Cougs every single day. I get to work with business owners and managers and people that love our university just as much as me. I didn't think that was possible, but it is. There's a lot of people out there like me. And so I get to work with people that really just remind me of myself and that I enjoy.
That's so cool. What are you most excited for the future of CougsFirst, your position, all of that?
Well, there's a lot of things. I would say, before I took this job, CougsFirst was known mainly for a trade show. And I think we're really working to break that idea that we're just a trade show. So, come August, we have our first monthly after hours event at 20 Corners Brewing in Woodinville on August 31st. And we're going to have an event every single month, whether it's a mini golf tournament at Flat Stick Pub or wine tasting on Red Mountain in the Tri-Cities. It's going to be hosted at a Cougar-owned business. So that's really exciting. The golf tournament, we have a QB Classic golf tournament. I love to plan that. And I actually planned that in 2019 with a few others before I was executive director. But becoming executive director and kind of that being my sort of baby in the spring was awesome. We had over 20 former WSU quarterbacks and head coaches, Bill Doba and Mike Price and Jim Walden, and the new coaching staff, Jake Dickert and his staff, all come back and play with these starting quarterbacks all the way back to the 60s. So it was awesome. Raised a bunch of money for the Cougar Athletic Fund and had a great time at Palouse Ridge. So I'm already looking forward to that next year. That's one of my favorite events. Other than that, we're hiring. We haven't posted the job yet, but I get to hire somebody because we're growing so quickly. So the second full-time person, hopefully here in Pullman, will be working on the administrative side and helping support events. So good plug for that. I'll put that job will be up in the next week or so. So keep an eye out for that.
Definitely. Thank you so much. I want to end with 3 rapid fire questions. Are you ready for them?
I'm ready. Yes.
Okay. Number 1, if you could have a drink in Pullman right now, where would you go?
Right now, the Coug, because Martin Stadium, there's no game. Otherwise, it'd be Martin Stadium.
But if there was, yes, I love that. Perfect. Segue into number 2, which is if you could only watch one WSU football game this season, which one would it be?
Wisconsin or USC?
Okay.
Yeah.
Why?
Wisconsin, because I think that it'd be awesome. I think they're going to be a top 10 team, and Coach Dickert's out there, so I think that'd be cool if he can kind of beat the Big Ten big boys out there on their turf. USC, because USC is still USC. They spend a lot of money, and we've beaten them a few times over the past few times we've played them, and it'd be awesome to beat them in Pullman with their flashy new staff, a lot of which actually was formerly at WSU years ago under Mike Leach. So it'd be kind of cool for us to beat those guys.
Yeah, a little personal this year.
Yep, it's personal.
Okay, and last question. If you could describe WSU in one word, what would it be?
Ooh, that's I would say grateful, in the sense that I'm so grateful for everything that WSU has given me. I would never have met my wife or have my business or have this job, anything really in my life. I wouldn't have my son, I wouldn't have met my wife in Pullman and had my son, Jack. So I would say I'm just grateful for WSU.
That's awesome. Well, listeners, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Hopefully you got some wisdom and just updates and a better understanding of CougsFirst, where it started, where it's going. And Tony, we're sure lucky to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was awesome. Appreciate it. Go Cougs.
Go Cougs.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for hanging out with us on the CougsFirst podcast. We hope you leave feeling inspired, entertained, and encouraged to support yet another awesome Cougar-owned business. If you like what you heard, do us a huge favor and leave a review for the CougsFirst podcast on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on the latest episodes, and please share this podcast with your fellow Cougs. And remember to thank CougsFirst for all of your products and services. But until the next episode, let's end it with a good old-fashioned Go Cougs!